Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is your host Ben on the Lover of Tech channel. Now I've got another camera comparison for you guys, and this is between the Galaxy S9 and the OnePlus 5T, and we're going to test these cameras in different situations, in daylight and in low light. And we're starting with the front facing cameras. With the Galaxy S9 you do have an 8 megapixel camera with an f1.7 aperture lens, 1.22 micron pixel size, and also uses autofocus and video that records up to 1440p 30 frames a second. Whereas the OnePlus 5T, you do have a 60 megapixel camera with an f2.0 aperture lens, 1.0 micron pixel size, and video that shoots in 1080p 30 frames a second and uses electronic image stabilization for the front facing camera. So we're just testing out to see how the image quality looks like and the stabilization as we're recording in 1440p 30 frames a second with the Galaxy S9 and 1080p 30 frames a second for the 5T. Let's turn this into a small run and see how it looks. And we're just going to walk it off. Now we've switched the video shooting mode on the Galaxy S9 to 1080p 30 frames a second. We're just going to check the image quality and the stabilization as we take a walk. And we're going to take it into a run just to see how it looks. And we're just going to walk it off. Unfortunately, living in the UK, it's gloomy today. There's not much sun. But let's just see how the image quality and the stabilization looks like. Welcome to another camera comparison on the Lover of Tech channel, and this time between the Galaxy S9 and the OnePlus 5T. And what I'm going to do is run you through the camera specifications of the main rear cameras on both these phones. And starting with the Galaxy S9, you do have a 12 megapixel camera with the new mechanical dual aperture lens that allows you to change from an f1.5 aperture to f2.4 aperture in pro mode or automatically in auto mode depending on the lighting situation, a 1.4 micron pixel size, optical image stabilization, the new super speed dual pixel autofocus with the ability to record in 4K 60 frames a second, 1080p 240 frames a second, and 720p 960 frames a second slow motion. Now the OnePlus 5T is rocking a 16 megapixel camera plus a 20 megapixel dual camera with dual aperture lens of f1.7 with the same 27mm focal length on both these cameras. It does not have a telephoto zoom lens like the OnePlus 5, and you do have a 1.12 micron pixel size, and also the second camera is also 1.0 micron pixel size. It doesn't have optical image stabilization, but it is using electronic image stabilization on the camera. Now a quick look into the camera settings for the Galaxy S9, and we do go into the video settings. You can see that the 4K 60 frames a second video recording mode is available to be used, but when you do enable it, the video stabilization does not work at 4K 60 frames a second, but at 4K 30 frames a second and Full HD 1080p 30 frames a second, video stabilization is available. And when you do go out, you can see that it is on, so everything else has been left to be automatic. I've not changed anything apart from the video settings that will be stated when going into the video section, which we are going to next. So sit back, this is going to be a long one, but it's going to be well detailed and worth it. Let's start with the video test first. So this is the 4K 30 frames a second video recording mode between the Galaxy S9 and the OnePlus 5T. And again, we're just testing out the image quality and the stabilization. Now this is the 4K 30 frames a second video recording mode. What we're going to do this time is times 2 zoom on both these phones. Times 2 zoom on the OnePlus 5T, times 2 zoom on the Galaxy S9. Now do remember that the OnePlus 5T does not have a telephoto zoom like the OnePlus 5. It's using the same focal length. It does have a times 2 zoom. What we're doing is just testing out the noise, the stability, and also the image quality while zoomed in. So this is the 4K 30 frames a second video recording mode between the Galaxy S9 and the OnePlus 5T. What we're going to do is test out the stabilization by giving it an extreme run to see how it handles. Now this is the 4K 30 frames per second video shooting mode again. Let's ×2 zoom and test out the image stabilization while zoomed in on both these phones to see how the image quality and the stabilization is like. Now this time we're testing out the 4K 60 frames per second video recording mode on the Galaxy S9 versus the 5T. This video will be exported in 4K 30 frames per second, but it's just more to kind of see the image quality, the lighting, the stabilization while recording in 4K 60. And you are able to do this on the Galaxy S9. Now we're testing out the 1080p 30 frames per second video recording mode between both these phones just to see how the image quality and the stabilization holds up in daylight. So let's add 1080p 60 frames per second in the mix just to see how they both perform in terms of image quality stabilization in daylight. So I was testing out the autofocusing speed on the Galaxy S9 with the new super speed dual pixel autofocus. We're testing this out in 1080p using the Galaxy Note 8 as the object. Well, it looks like it's working really fast. As seen in previous videos, the super speed dual pixel autofocusing on the Galaxy S9 working like a charm. Now we're testing the autofocusing speed on the OnePlus 5T, and this has been recorded in 1080p, and we're using the Galaxy Note 8 as the object. So the OnePlus 5T is using your standard face detection autofocus, which still works really fast by the looks of it. Let me know which one actually looks and is focusing the best, but looks to be working pretty well. So this is the 4K 30 frames per second video recording mode between the Galaxy S9 and the OnePlus 5T, and we're testing this in low light, just seeing how the image quality and the stabilization works on both. What we're going to do now, we're just going to stop, we're going to go into ×2 zoom mode, and also ×2 zoom on the Galaxy S9, see how the image stabilization looks like, and how the noise reduction and noise is dealt with when zoomed in. So now switching to 4K 60 frames per second on the Galaxy S9 against the 4K 30 frames per second on the 5T, we're just seeing how the low light performance changes the image quality as well as the stabilization. Now this is the 1080p 30 frames per second video recording mode between the Galaxy S9 and the OnePlus 5T. And again, we're just measuring and seeing how the image quality, the stabilization, all works in low light. Now let's switch to 1080p 60 frames per second on both these phones. Let's just see how the low light performance, the image quality and the stabilization changes. So this is the front-facing selfie video recording mode on the Galaxy S9 and the OnePlus 5T. The Galaxy S9 is recorded in 1440p 30 frames per second, and the 5T is in 1080p. Seeing how the image quality and the stabilization works in low light. Now we've switched the selfie video recording mode on the Galaxy S9 to 1080p 30 frames per second. We're just seeing how the image quality, the low light performance, and especially the image stabilization works when in 1080p 30 frames per second. Looking here, the 5T looks bright in low light, but we'll have to wait and see. Now this first low light selfie of myself, both are actually doing the best they can in this low light situation, but where I lean more to the 5T is it has the color temperature just right. The Galaxy S9 is just way too warm and there's too much of a red tint. The details are ever so slightly the same. I'll say that the S9 has a slightly softer image. I would give this one to the OnePlus 5T. And again, with this one, the 5T with the flash and the S9 with the flash, I would say that the S9 is ever so slightly too exposed and too sharp in terms of the brightness, whereas the OnePlus 5T has really balanced it right, and there's more vibrancy on the reds. And when you see my beard as well, you see more details from there. I would also give this one to the OnePlus 5T. Now this next shot of the cabinet, I would definitely give it to the Galaxy S9. You get a much sharper image, the color temperature is just right. When it comes to the 5T, you do get a slightly softer image, but there's more of kind of like a yellow green tint over the image. Let me know which one you like out of the two. I'm leaning more towards the Galaxy S9 on this shot. Here with the flash, both are doing the complete opposite. The S9 is underexposed, whereas the 5T is way too overexposed and way too sharp. So it's really down to how you want the image to look like. I don't really like the harsh flash look on the 5T, so I'll probably go with the Galaxy S9 on this one, but I do wish the Galaxy S9 was slightly better illuminated. But let me know which one you prefer out of the two. This next shot of myself, you're getting a much cleaner image on the Galaxy S9 and a brighter image, but it is at the sacrifice of being ever so slightly soft, where you're getting a bit of noise on the OnePlus 5T, but with more details and vibrancy, but it is a slightly darker image. Let me know which one you prefer. I really do like the details that the 5T is pulling in low light, but the cleaner image on the S9 can also be pleasing, but let me know which one you prefer. Here with the low light flash of myself, as seen in previous videos, the Galaxy S9 struggles, it overexposes, it pretty much makes me look all white, and it doesn't get the flash balance right, whereas the 5T does a much better job. The red eye reduction on there is also done much better than what you're seeing on the S9. So I would hands down give this one to the 5T. The S9 needs more work in terms of the flash balance on its phone. Now this next image of the Europe car sign, you do get a cleaner image with a warmer color temperature and also a brighter image on the Galaxy S9. When you look closer to the car in front, you can see the wheel and you can make out more of the car, but you're getting much better dynamic range and color retention on the OnePlus 5T. And you can see the yellow color with the underneath line under the Europe car sign much more clearly on the 5T. This seems to be another thing that the S9 seems to struggle. So in regards to actually color retention and dynamic range in this low light shot, although you're getting a cleaner and a brighter image on the Galaxy S9, you're getting better details and color rendition and dynamic range on the 5T. So let me know which one you like out of the two. Now when you do a digital ×2 zoom on both these phones, here's where you can see the color dynamic range and the color rendition recovered on the S9 with still a much cleaner image with great noise reduction, whereas you can see the noise really starting to creep in on the 5T when you do zoom in. So for this one, I'll definitely give it to the Galaxy S9, but that's what happens once you zoom in, the colors are retained back. This next image here, I give credit to the 5T for having a perfect color temperature balance where it's not too warm, not too cold, it's really neutral. But what you do get is a slightly warmer color temperature on the S9, but with a much sharper and a cleaner image. Here's where the f1.5 aperture with the low light performance with great noise reduction is really kicking in with the S9, where you are seeing a slight much more noise creeping on the 5T. So it's a mix of the two. I definitely prefer the cleaner image on the Galaxy S9 as an overall picture, but I really like the color temperature, which is consistent on the 5T. And then doing the digital ×2 zoom, same characteristics as the previous image. So again, a cleaner image on the S9 with great color temperature balance on the 5T. Again, I will lean towards more of this on the S9 as an overall image. Now this next shot of the bush, to the naked eye, both are doing really good. But when you look deeper, what you do realize is the consistency of the great color temperature balance on the 5T really comes to light. You do get a warmer color temperature on the Galaxy S9, but you do get a sharper image as well with less noise, which is where the low light performance with the f1.5 aperture really comes to light. But the color temperature is really what I'm liking on the 5T. So let me know which one you like as the overall image. Now with this low light flash of the bush, you can see that the S9, in my opinion, really walks away with it. The flash illuminates the foreground really well, whereas the 5T, the color temperature has really now become way too warm and it's not really color accurate to what I'm seeing with the greens and the color separation within the bush. I think the S9 really walks away with this one here. So this shot with me indoors with decent lighting, I'll definitely say the 5T has overexposed the surroundings. It's way too bright. It's lost the color vibrancy within the red jumper itself. It's a decent decent shot, don't get me wrong, but you do see that the Galaxy S9 has really balanced everything right in terms of the exposure. It's kept the vibrancy in the hoodie, the darks and the blacks and the details around my face are definitely right there. So I really do prefer what I'm seeing in the Galaxy S9 with this shot. This next shot of the statue, both these images are pretty much even. You could look even further. I could honestly not tell much of a difference. It really shows that in good lighting conditions, the OnePlus 5T holds up really well, and it's not really that much different to the S9. So it's really split down the middle. You're going to get the same results if you're in this situation with both. And again, when you do a ×2 digital zoom, you can see that the details ever fall slightly more to the S9, but it's again, the difference is not enough to notice. You really have to look, which is credit to OnePlus 5T and also the great noise reduction held on both phones, including the Galaxy S9. So again, it's split down the middle. Pick which one you prefer. There is a slight warmer color temperature to the S9, I might say, but not much of a difference between the two. So with this shot, the sun decided to show its face a bit, and here you can exercise some dynamic range tricky situations, and here you can definitely see that the Galaxy S9 walks away with it. When you look around the clouds near where the sun is, you can see that it's really able to keep the exposure and the details within the cloud where you can't see it on the 5T, and also the surrounding lightings and the shadows and the details are kept a lot better on an S9. So dynamic range in this one definitely goes to the S9. But the OnePlus 5T did the best it could in this situation. Another landscape shot here, and you can see dynamic range again goes to the Galaxy S9. If you look at the blues in the sky, you can see the differences separated between the blues in the sky to the clouds and also on the horizon, which you're not really seeing that separation on the 5T. So again, this is more of a test to see how the dynamic range behaves. Everything else with this image, you're getting a slightly brighter image with better dynamic range on the S9 compared to the 5T. This next shot here of myself, you can see that both are actually doing a really good job in terms of sharpness and details. I'll tell you do get slightly better blacks and color rendition on the Galaxy S9 in terms of vibrancy, but the difference again is so negligible that you really have to look. Both are doing a really good job. It's credit to the 5T, is doing a great job in daylight, but you do get better details and blacks and color vibrancy ever so slightly on the Galaxy S9. This close-up macro shot of the flower, you are getting better depth of field on the OnePlus 5T, and this is more down to the fact that it has that fixed aperture of f1.7. You're not getting that much of a depth of field with the S9, most likely because in auto mode where there's enough light, it's probably using the f2.4 aperture, but because of that you're getting a slightly sharper image because more things are in focus. So it's really down to how you want the look of the image. Remember, you can always go into pro mode, lock the settings, change the aperture yourself on the S9, so it's really down to what you want to do. But in auto mode, these are the looks of the images here. A slightly brighter image on the Galaxy S9 with a sharper detail where you get more depth of field on the OnePlus 5T. Now this next selfie of myself, both these phones have the same wide field of view, but I would say that the colors and the skin tones and the surrounding image of the Galaxy S9 is slightly better than what I lean towards, whereas the OnePlus 5T is a little bit washed out, but the details are great on both. So it's really just down to personal choice which one you like out of the two. Here's another selfie of myself, pretty much exhibiting the same characteristics. So take time, pause, watch it, and let me know again which one you prefer out of the two images. Now this next shot of myself, I want to actually stop and say thank you to Ben. Now not myself, someone else called Ben that saw me in the park doing a camera test and helped me get these portrait shots of myself with both phones. So if you're watching, thank you. And continuing with the analysis, this is the portrait mode on both these phones. The Galaxy S9 is known as selective focus and the OnePlus 5T is depth effect. And the most immediate thing you're going to notice is the focal length distances. The problem you have with the Galaxy S9 with selective focus is because it's working with a single lens, not the plus variant with the dual lens. For you to be able to pull off selective focus, you really have to come close to the subject, tap to focus, take the shot, and just hope that it applies the blur. When it does apply the blur, as you can see, it's not doing too bad of a job. Whereas the OnePlus 5T, because they've gotten rid of the telephoto zoom lens, you do have the same focal distance, and the second camera is actually helping with depth. What that does is give you more control in terms of distance. It doesn't crop, so you can measure the distance yourself, and it does it ever so slightly. It really does a good job. The edge detection is not too bad. The bokeh is not too aggressive, it's nice and subtle. I actually do prefer the dual lens portrait mode depth effect on the OnePlus 5T. When you have two lenses, it's just so much easier to pull it off. But when you do pull it off in selective focus, it does work quite well, but it is a pain having to move closer. You can't really get a distant shot, and it kind of defeats the object of having a portrait shot done. So I would say it's kind of even, but I lean more towards the 5T, and the Galaxy S9 Plus would give you the better effect when it comes to live focus portrait mode. Here's another portrait mode shot of both these phones exhibiting the same characteristics, so watch through, let me know which one you prefer out of the two. Now rounding this up, one ace that the Galaxy S9 does have is front facing selfie portrait mode. That is known as selfie focus. You do not get this option on the OnePlus 5T, which for me, it's not too much of a deal breaker, but it's such a nice feature to have. Now, it's not pixel level good, you know, but in terms of being able to have that option to do that, you can do that on the Galaxy S9. So consider that if you're thinking of these two, that you can do selfie portrait mode with selfie focus on the Galaxy S9. Now, what's my overall conclusion between the OnePlus 5T and the Galaxy S9 after this camera test? The OnePlus 5T, for not having any OIS module in the camera lens, although not perfect, the electronic image stabilization algorithms used for recording in 4K and other video shooting modes are absolutely amazing. This is one thing that I really do think OnePlus have nailed well, and I hope in future phones they can implement OIS with EIS, and they can actually probably give Google a run for their money in terms of fused image stabilization in video shooting mode. The S9 stabilization works decent enough, but there seems to be inconsistencies, especially in 4K, in terms of the frame rate being variable to the image stabilization when it's recording in 4K. As the OnePlus 5T is working with a dual camera, depth effect from the main camera does work a lot easier with no crop, due to the fact that it no longer has a telephoto zoom lens, so it is a better effect to use on there. Selective focus does work, but just bear in mind with a single camera lens you do need to get closer to the object and it will pull off the shot. The overall low light performance for photos and video on the Galaxy S9, and also the ability to shoot in 1080p 240 frames a second, 4K 60 frames a second, and super slow motion at 720p 960 frames a second, makes it the overall low light beast, and also the better video shooting option for smartphones. And also to add, out of the two, it does have the better dynamic range as well in terms of performance. Now, I hope you like this comparison out of the two. Let me know in the comment section below which one was your favorite out of the two. How well did the flagship killer hold up against the flagship? Again, let's have discussions and let's see what your feedback is on this comparison. Now, be sure to subscribe, and also when you do subscribe, make sure that you do hit that notification bell so you can see all the latest content that is posted on the Lover of Tech channel. And again, I'm your host Ben on the Lover of Tech channel, signing out, and I will see you next time.